الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Shadee Nothin But Facts live stream, where we have a young guest. Cometh, young man, and sit. And where's your food? Cometh and eat here. And you, yeah, walk right in front of the camera, no problem. Okay, yeah. Okay. Surat Al-Munafiqoon. We're on now the area where we have completed the story about the Munafiqeen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. By the way, I just have an announcement before we start. If you are a New Jersey resident, New Jersey resident, and you're in the healthcare industry, and there's some kind of pressure upon you to be part of, or you're just being asked to be part of a transition, a gender transition, and you're not up for that, it's not your thing, okay? As the new generation says, I'm not trying to be part of that. Okay. Send me a direct message, right, through WhatsApp, through Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Okay. Send me that message and with your name, your email, and what the nature of your job, because there will be a meeting. And with some lawyers and with some religious freedom experts or consultants. Okay. Now, let's get to Surat Al-Jum'ah, Surat Al-Munafiqoon, where we completed the story of the Munafiqeen. Okay. And إنما أموالكم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله. You understand what I just said? You don't understand what I'm saying? You don't speak Arabic? What do you speak?
English.
What else? Okay. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله. The Mufassirin said, Dhikrullah here means praying on time. That's what it means here. Dhikrullah here means Salat on time. And the meaning of this verse is, do not, O believers, do not allow your children and your wealth to make you delay your Salah. Okay? And for those who go above and beyond in their ibadah, they're seeking the path of ihsan. They go above and beyond in their ibadah, then here, in this case, dhikrullah means the other nawafil that they do. Okay, so let's say you're somebody who is always doing some nawafil, okay, then now you have a new job. Well, don't let yourself fall off, okay, these nawafil. All right? That's what it means. Whoever busies themselves with the dunya and now their deen is suffering, not acceptable. So what does deen suffering mean? Yeah, now they're doing prohibitions, or they're delaying their ibadah, or they're not praying at all. Okay. Allah talks about some people in praise. لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. With proper tajweed, لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. Okay, their trade and buying and selling does not distract them from the remembrance of Allah. وما يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. If you do that and you do allow for yourself to be distracted in such a manner from the remembrance of Allah, then you're losing yourself. You're the one you're losing out on yourself. Okay, you are the one losing. No one else is losing except you. Because think about it, who's in charge of your rizq? If the president of the company walks in and you're working, right? Don't you stop what you're doing and pay attention to him? And there's وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلِ الْأَعْلَى. Right? If the president of the company was to walk in and you're here working for Nike designing shoes, the president of the company comes in. You stop what you're doing. Phil Knight has just walked in. You stop what you're doing, you pay attention to the president. Because he's the source of your employment. If you anger him, you'll be out, right? So who is ultimately the source of all of our wealth? Is it not Allah? And when people say, I don't want to make wudu, I just want to move on because I'm busy. Hold on, don't you think Allah could busy you with something else? Like you could become made busy by something else. So this is the idea here of recognizing where is the source of your rizq. And this is an amazing practice. Every time we're doing something, okay, I'm checking emails, I'm working on something. Let's say you just wanted to, just like wudu. People are lazy about making wudu. Wudu is an amazing thing to do, right? All the time, wudu, right? And so people are lazy about it. Oh, I don't have time. Okay, I don't have time to make wudu. Let me just do this real quick. Don't you know that you can be delayed? Allah can delay you if you went that route. Because we know the hadith that there are three people. One person saw the remembrance of Allah and he rushed to it. In other words, saw a halaqah of the Prophet ﷺ and he didn't want to go, but he was embarrassed to turn his back. And then the third one, he just didn't go. He said, I saw it, but he didn't go. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? One, he came quickly to Allah. Allah came quickly to him, meaning with reward and forgiveness. The other one was embarrassed to leave and turn his back to it. So Allah was embarrassed from him. And what does that mean? That means he didn't get much reward, but he got forgiveness from his sins. And then who is the third one? He turned his back on Allah, so Allah turned his back on him. What does it mean Allah turned his back on him? It means that Allah did not make his matters easy. He had affairs he was going to and he was busy with. Allah could have helped him, okay, with that. Now, he's not getting that help. Okay, because he turned his back on Allah. So that's the idea. An angel whispers a good idea in your head. An angel whispers a good idea in your head. And what do? You end up, you can listen to it or you can ignore it. If you ignore it, eventually you won't even hear it, eventually. Okay? People asking about the celebrate life, or also may be called the celebration of virtue. Yes, we have the intention to do it. Let's see if I got a response from the people that I've invited. I did get a response. It's from one out of the two. We are holding it, inshallah. It's probably going to be at a park. We have to see. Yes? Hello?
Hi, this is Kyle calling from home care assistant.
I'm good, but I'm recording a live stream right now. I'll have to call you back.
All right, I understand. No problem at all. We're available 24/7. You can call anytime. Okay?
Wonderful. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. You too. Bye. Next ayah says, ayah number 10 now. وَأَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ. Give charity from what you give. Anything Allah has given you, give it back to others. Give it out to others. Okay? من قبل أن يأتي أحدكم الموت. Before death comes to you. If you shared when in your life, now hardship is. What's the greatest hardship? Is it not death? Death is the greatest hardship, right? Nothing could be harder than dying. But you, your whole life, helped other people in hardship. So now you get help, okay? You're going to get help. And we help others, not expecting them to help us back, but rather expecting and hoping for that help to hang in a balance sheet with Allah. And when it hangs in Allah's balance sheet, Allah can increase it in multiple folds. And then when we need it most, then it comes back to us. I help somebody, that person may not be able to help me. He may not be able to help me with this. And some people can't help you. Some people, you'll never see them again. So if you imagine that helping other people, that the response has to only come from that person, you're making a mistake. No, it's in the balance sheet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doubles it however He wishes based upon your intention. And the moment you need it, it comes down. That's why people get help when they least expect it. How does that happen? Well, it was in the balance sheet of how much you helped other people. It was in the balance sheet. So that's why Allah helped you back. Okay. فيقول رب لولا أخرتني إلى أجل قريب فأصدق وأكن من الصالحين. Many people, when they are about to die, they're about to die. What do? They ask, oh Allah, or here, when they do die, they're going to say, oh God, let me come back to life and do good deeds. Because they realize, oh, this new world that we're in, it's all about good deeds. The wealth is deeds. The poverty is bad deeds. So they're going to say, oh Allah, send me back so I can do good deeds. There's no point. What you do in this life, when you die, if you would have lived 1,000 more times, you would have done the same. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. Okay. No, because if you're going to go back, you would have done the same deeds. Nothing would change. If you were to say, oh Allah, let me hit the reset button. After you died, you said that? No, it doesn't work like that. So that's why he's saying, give sadaqah before you die. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab is recorded said, live every moment. At this moment, live as if you're going to meet Allah very soon. Okay. Tomorrow I'm going to go back and meet my Creator. But if it's for your worldly affairs, like my money and my food, then live as if you're going to live forever, meaning you have to plan. Okay. And there's two meanings of that. The first meaning of it is you can delay it as if you're going to live forever. Like there's no loss. It's going to come. There's no rush. I don't have to rush. That's one meaning of it. The second meaning of it is that you plan. I have to have a plan. I have to have a plan for 10 years down, 100 years down. So there's two meanings to it. One is that don't worry about delaying it because I'm going to live forever. And the second meaning is that plan for living a long time. Okay. Next. هذا قول المقاتل وقالوا نزلت الآية في المنافقين قيل نزلت الآية في المؤمنين والمراد بالصلاح هنا الحج وأكن من الصالحين, meaning to make hajj. All right. Some specified the general. It's called the specification of the general. Okay. And that's what all of tafsir is, all specifying the general and generalizing the specific. So in one sense, a dhikr is general, but it means the 5 prayers, according to the tabi'een. And another, I'll be from the righteous. Okay, that's general, and then they specified it to mean hajj, according to one of the opinions. Okay. وروى الضحاك وعطية عن ابن عباس أنه قال ما من أحد يموت وكان له مال لم يؤدي زكاته وأطاق الحج فلم يحج إلا سأل الرجعة عند الموت. So that's why they said this, because these two ayahs have to do with zakat and hajj. Or this Ibn Abbas says no one dies and he had wealth that he had to give out as zakah. And he had the ability to make hajj, but he never did it. All right. When they die, they're all going to say, oh Allah, let me come back. فَأَصَّدَّقَ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. I'll pay my zakah and I'll make hajj. Okay. Whenever these general good deeds are mentioned, sadaqah, dhikrillah, being a salih, it's specified to an obligation. So the first obligation is the 5 prayers that he said here. Okay, لا تلهكم, don't be busy by your wealth and your family from dhikrillah. Remembrance of Allah means the 5 prayers. Then he says here, فَأَصَّدَّقَ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, I'll give charity and I'll be good. It means zakat and hajj, right? So you see the methodology of the mufassirin. General term is pinned to an obligation. Okay. قرأ عمرو وأكون من الصالحين. Okay, وأكن من الصالحين حفص. عمرو وأكون من الصالحين. قال إنما حذفت الواو من المصحف اختصارا. And he said that they just removed the waw for brevity's sake from the writing of the Quran. وقرأ الآخرون وأكن بالجزم عطفا على قوله فأصدق وأكن. Okay. Next ayah, ولن يؤخر الله نفسا إذا جاء أجلها والله خبير بما تعملون. All right. If your time has come to die, you cannot delay it. Time comes to die, you cannot delay that time. All right, we begin the next surah. You're heading off, young man? You're heading off? You go ride your bike? So what do you do in the summer? You just ride your bike? Huh? Surah Al-Jumu'ah now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. Okay. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسول. يعني العرب كانت أمية لا تكتب ولا تقرأ. So the ayah means praise be to Allah. يسبح لله. Constantly happening. يسبح لله. Who is praising Allah? من في السماوات والأرض. Those in the heavens and those in the earth. الملك القدوس. What is the description of Allah? He's the king. He's the sacred. Or he's the blessed. The most noble, the most wise. And he's the one who sent amongst the unlettered people, the non-Jews, the non-Hebrews, the Gentiles, a messenger from amongst themselves, reciting upon them his words, Allah's words. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, purifies them. How does the Prophet purify us? By directing us to the deeds that will purify us. That's how the Prophet, and you could purify somebody too. Purify somebody by teaching them how to purify themselves. The deeds that would purify themselves, like what? Tahara, pray 2 rakats, make a good wudu, pray 2 rakats, listen to a couple verses of Quran on your headphones. You know, this is really powerful. Listening to Quran on your headphones, where that's all you hear, it has extremely powerful impact on someone. There was a man who used to cure people who had various depressions and psychiatric disorders. And he would say, listen, do your thing with your doctor and everything, but let me give you another cure. It's just so that nobody says, no, I believe in science, I don't believe in this stuff. All right, fine, do that thing. But listen to me too. And he used to say that 15 minutes first thing in the morning, brush your teeth, you get your cup of tea or whatever, and you put the headphones on and you listen to the Quran and you look at the name of Allah. Okay? You look at the name of Allah. You look at the card. You just put it in front of you, that's all. And you sit and relax and just listen. And do this 15 minutes at dhuhr time. Put the name of Allah, gaze upon the name. There's even a hadith. Zogs? How's Meta? What? Meta is giving you a day off?
Taking a half day today.
Taking a half day, mashallah. Yeah. When the metaverse is built, we know who built it. Mashallah. So then I do the same thing. There is a hadith about looking at the mushaf, looking at the Kaaba, looking at your parents. Okay. Then he says, do it again, 15 minutes at night. These people within a few days or in weeks were transformed. Their mood was transformed. Their state was transformed by the intensity that you're looking at the name of Allah and you're listening to the Quran. It's the very intense amount of light is coming into your heart. But doing what? Nothing. You're literally not doing anything. No distraction. Just listen to the Quran on the headphones and listen to look at the name of Allah. Or look at the Kaaba, or look at Medina. So your sensory perception of your eyes and your ears is intensely receiving the light of Allah.
You know, recently you gave me that those two. You remember it was like velvet with Allah's name and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Where is it?
I hung it up in my room, like with the frame.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
and I noticed like such a big change. Like now it's like it's right in front of you, so it's like
first thing you see. So it's like your salah is like you just feel like you have to be upright all the time. Like you can't lack in any category. Yeah, you can't lack.
Like, all the time it's remembrance. Like if you're in your room and you're just trying to relax, it's like, oh wait, you look at that and then you're like, all right, I should probably be reading something.
That's true.
Or like get up and do something, right? So it's like it does really change.
It really transforms everything.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. Okay, so he healed people by this. Gentlemen, ya ikhwan, guests from the cometh. وَادْخُلُوهَا بِسَلَامٍ آمِنِينَ. Enter into it. Bismillah. تفضلوا. Okay. Salam, ya man.
Sheikh, we brought you some sweets.
Some sweets. Allahu Akbar. What is this?
Hamza sent us.
Hamza who?
Hamza, all the.
Hamza Rida.
Raza.
Raza. Assalamu alaikum. Gentlemen, all these young men are coming in to study with us this summer, right? Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Gentlemen. All right. Name and city where you're from.
Salat and from Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia. Allahu Akbar. Brother, come sit right there.
Abdullah from Atlanta.
Abdullah from Atlanta.
Brahim from Atlanta.
Brahim from Atlanta. You just arrived, you guys?
All of us are from Atlanta.
By car?
We were from New York. We came from New York.
You took a flight to New York and then came with an Uber?
Abid bin Bangladesh.
Bangladesh via Atlanta.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Jahir, Atlanta.
MashaAllah. So you guys are all from one community? And you got some Atlanta, some sweets from Atlanta too.
No.
Yeah. We'll see.
MashaAllah.
Let's go with that.
Ooh. Gulab jamins and pistachio flavored things. This stuff it is good stuff. It is good. And silver covered. It's silver covered, by the way. So I'm gonna pass it from the right to the left and take whatever you would like. I'll take one first. Bismillah.
First.
I'm gonna use this bag here as my
Try
plate.
Some baklava and stuff, but you know.
No, I'm gonna take some of the silver piece right here. Just not the whole thing, just some of it. Bismillah.
You guys want to talking to that?
Oh, we've been talking about.
The pistachio is like a ras malai-ish type of thing,
Hamza
right?
said you were a big fan of gulab jamun, so we got you.
I'm a
those.
big fan of gulab jamun. Good stuff. Very good stuff. So talk to me, Shabab. What you all are about? College students?
Just graduated, graduating soon.
Yeah.
From which university? Emory?
Georgia State.
I went to school in Philly.
Philly. Which school?
UPenn.
Smart one over here. MashaAllah. Next. Here's your mic, by the way, you guys.
From Atlanta.
Which part of Atlanta? University of Bangladesh State?
Georgia State University.
Georgia State. Okay.
Harvard of the South.
Is it? Or the Ohio State of the South. All right, you.
Yeah, I recently graduated from Georgia State as well.
Georgia State?
I got here from Augusta University.
Augusta.
Medical's College of
With golf golf studies?
I've tried.
Medical College of Georgia. He's just being a little humble.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Good.
Go to Georgia Tech.
So Coca-Cola is like what made Atlanta, right?
And Delta.
Yeah. Right?
And Delta. And the aquarium.
Delta Airlines? Oh, I didn't know they're down there.
And Georgia Aquarium.
No one knows about that.
It's the biggest aquarium.
Is
in
it
the
true?
US.
Okay, I didn't know that. But Coca-Cola way back, you know, that's like what made Atlanta. So you know what made New Brunswick?
Safina?
No, close. Nope. Something you guys all have of one of their products in your house. Well, you know, take your mic and stick it here in the middle so you can all hear it. And push it up too.
The wires.
Oh, the wire's not long enough? Okay, no problem. Johnson & Johnson.
Oh.
The Band-Aid and the first aid kit was invented here.
He worked for Johnson.
Way back in the day. Way back in the day, the Band-Aid and the first aid kit were invented right here in New Brunswick. And as a result of that, those people, because they are ahead of the curve, right? So there's three ways to get ahead of the curve. You either be the first one to do something, you beat people to it. You don't have to be the best. Just you were there first. Speed. Or you're the smartest one. Okay? Or you cheated. Right? That's usually how you place greatness. It's one of those things. So J&J, there were three brothers, actually Johnson and Johnson and Johnson, but it was like too much to say, so they just called it Johnson and Johnson. And the oldest one was the leader, and they invented the Band-Aid and the first aid kit. Then they went up and down the Jersey Shore, you know, giving out these first aid kits, okay, which involved like sunscreen, bandages. People need bandages all the time. So they're the ones who invented that, and they went around to all buildings selling this first aid kit, and they're the ones who invented the Band-Aid. So they were minting money. Like literally, they probably, if they owned a printer, it would be slower. If they owned a printer that just printed money all day, it would be slower than the amount of money they made. For a good number of years, they're the only supplier of Band-Aids in the whole country. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Right? Because a couple years back, Starbucks was doing this initiative. Every state had its symbol, right? Like they put the state on the mug, and all the different symbols related to it. So like, for example, Texas had the longhorn cows, right? Georgia had like, yeah, stuff like, so and then I come to New Jersey and I see a Band-Aid. I'm like, well, what's this, right? Then I looked into it, and then J&J. So we invented the Band-Aid, we invented the light bulb, was invented here in the state of New Jersey. It was Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, one of the greats in terms of technology and science. The legend, Thomas Edison. The greatest inventor of all time. The greatest, probably, product maker of all time is Steve Jobs. But the greatest inventor of all time, there's no doubt. Like, of all time that we know of. Someone will probably say, oh, well, Ibn so-and-so in India invented, like, some eye surgery. Yeah, I know about that, right? But from our times, in our day and age, that we still use their stuff. No doubt about it. All right, let's continue with the ayah. يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ الملك القدوس. What's the difference between القدوس والمبارك? الأرض المقدسة والأرض المباركة. الأرض المقدسة التي باركنا فيها. التقديس is to remove all blemishes. Something is sacred. Sacred space. What does a sacred space mean? Means that certain halal things you can't do here. Like the masjid is a sacred space. There are certain halal things that you can't do in the masjid, right? So it's sacred. Al-Masjid al-Haram, because there are many halal things you cannot do in this mosque. Okay? And sins are multiplied in this masjid, in the whole city of Mecca. And then, barakna fiha, we blessed it, means that there's always an increase. So that the food for two in this place will last for 4 people, right? Food for 1 day will last 2 days. So there's barakah, there's an increase in khair. The reward is increased, everything is increased, okay? Everything is increased. So that's the difference between al-Quddus and al-Barakah, or al-Qudsiyya wal-Barakah, to put it in the same form. Now the messenger, this is a dua from Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. Sayyidina Ibrahim is the one who prayed and made dua for a messenger to be sent. Rasulam minhum. Yatlu alayhim ayatihi. What is the first thing he does? He recites your verses unto them. He purifies them. He teaches them the book and the wisdom. This is a proof against the Qur'aniyun. You know the Qur'anists who know hadith, Qur'an only? So, someone here tell me, how is this ayah a proof? How is it a proof of that? How is this ayah that, oh Allah, send them upon them a messenger who recites your verses to them, purifies them, teaches them the book and the wisdom? How is it a proof against the people who say, all we need is the Qur'an? It's because if the Qur'an is only what we need, we don't need anything else, then we would only need the first part of the dua. Yatlu alayhim ayatik. He recites your verses. If all we need is the Qur'an, then that's all we need from the messenger. But Sayyidina Ibrahim knows that the book of Allah, all revelations from Allah, must come through the messenger, so the messenger could teach them what it means and show them how to apply it. Right? So then he added 3 things outside the book, other than the book. 3 things. He purifies them. He shows them how to worship Allah properly. Okay? He purifies them. And he teaches them the book. He teaches them tafsir. So wait a second. If all we need is the Quran, why do we need the Prophet to teach us the book? It's because what you may think is the meaning of Allah's words is not. Right? Just like earlier, before you guys came, we mentioned at the end of Surat Al-Munafiqoon, Surat Al-Munafiqoon, you could say it both ways. It mentions dhikrillah, and it mentions sadaqah, and it mentions as-salah, righteousness. But the mufassirin say dhikrillah here means the 5 prayers, sadaqah means the obligatory zakah, and righteousness means hajj. So the mufassirin are showing us that when there's a general statement in the Quran, a general good deed, it actually is connected or pinned, and it refers to an obligatory deed, an obligation. So that's a method of teaching us what the Quran means. So the Prophet ﷺ is the first mufassir of the Quran. Okay. But then even more so. Well, okay, so he taught us the tafsir of the Quran. Shouldn't that be it? No. Wal hikmah. So that means there's a whole nother subset of knowledge besides the Quran, which is wisdom. يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So hikmah is the correct application of the Quran. Okay, so you can say, يُزَكِّيهِمْ, he shows them akhlaq. Just like Sayyidina Ali said to the Kharijites, when they said, we must rule by the Quran only. The Quran only is the judge. No ijtihad from a judge, a human judge. Sayyidina Ali brought the mushaf and he put it down, and he said to the people, he said to the Kharijis, come sit here, and I'm sitting here. And then he sat. And he said, oh mushaf, judge between us. Right? They said, no, we mean the meaning of the Quran. He said, okay, your meaning? Your understanding of the meaning? Or my understanding of the meaning? Right? So, as people always ask, what is a madhab and why should I follow a madhab? The simplest answer is the word of Allah and His Messenger are explicit and interpretive. They're not the nature of the language of the Quran is not all one. Some of it's black and white, and some of it is interpretive. Dhanni. Some of it's qat'i and some of it's dhanni. As for the qat'i, no two Muslim can no, you're not allowed to disagree. There's only one meaning. There's no room for interpretation. So Tawheed is not an interpretation. The oneness of Allah is not an interpretation. It's qat'i. There's no interpretation in that which is qat'i. There's only interpretation in that which is dhanni. Okay? Interpretive, equivocal. It could possibly mean two different things. And then what is the valid interpretation? This is all logic. Valid interpretation, it follows the rules of logic. It is suitable with the language of the meaning of the words. And it does not contradict an explicit verse. It doesn't contradict another explicit verse. Such a tafsir is called a valid tafsir. Simple as that. That's why madhab exists. Aqidah is one, and there are even masail in aqidah. There are madhab in aqidah because not all the verses of aqidah are also explicit. There's interpretive verses of aqidah. Right? To give an innocent example, is Munkar and Nakir the name of two angels or the name of two titles of angels? Is Raqib and Atid actual names or are they positions? I like the opinion that it's positions. Right? Why? Because how many angels are there? Every individual by himself has two sets of angels. Right? Two come and judge him in the daytime, then they swap out, and two come and judge him at night. Are they all called Raqib and Atid? Right? When we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no repetition in the creation. Like no two faces look the same. No, the malaika, every malak has his own name. Whereas humans, because we are, what we are with our limitations, we may repeat things. Right? Ran out of ideas. Okay? And we just keep repeating. But malaika, they don't have lineage. They don't name each other after one another. Each one is created on his own and given his own shape, his own look, and his own name, and there's no two repetitions. Just like the things of this earth has no repetition. There's no repetition in any rock that you find, you can't ever find the exact same rock. Any snowflake, you can't find the exact same snowflake. So it makes more sense, and that's a madhab, right? These are madhab in aqidah. Not madhabs with names, but opinions, I should say. And there are many other opinions, matters that are subject to opinion in fiqh, in aqidah. All right. And you find those in the details of the books. Okay. يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم على الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. All right. Oh Allah, send them such a messenger even if before this they were upon a great misguidance. And what does that mean? Shirk. Okay. يعبدون الأوثان. They worship idols. You know the story of Amr ibn al-Jamuh. Amr ibn al-Jamuh was so loyal to his idol Manat in Medina. And he had 3 sons who listened to the words of Mus'ab ibn Umair. Mus'ab ibn Umair was the very handsome, perfect ambassador of Islam. And he came in and he was so articulate, and he then proceeded to give da'wah, and these 3 youths loved what he had to say. But their dad was old. Was very old. And he has already stuck in his ways, and he loved his idol. They said, come listen to this man speak, Mus'ab ibn Umair. So he said, okay. And the redeeming quality of this dad was that he was very good with his family. And so he said, okay, let's go. They went, and these 3 boys, their friend was the famous Sahabi Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He was their friend, so they were 4. So they went, listen to Mus'ab ibn Umair. He said, what do you think of this speech? He said, this is amazing speech. Wonderful speech. He said, then take the shahada. He said, first I have to ask Manat. I have to ask my idol. So he goes and he spends all night doing his worship of the idol. Right? And the way that they used to do things is that there was a priestess. Type of person who was like a priestess. And she would stand behind the idol while you prayed. If just like in church, you want to give confession, you got to wait for the priest to come. You put the curtain and you play this game where you don't know each other, right? As if he doesn't know you, right? And you give your confession. And sometimes they don't have to have a curtain, by the way. He then, they would put a priestess behind the idol, and then the priestess, whatever she'd be inspired to respond with, is the response of the idol. So the idol has to come through her. So she said, he gave this request. He basically did istikhara to the idol. Should I accept Islam and turn my back on you or not? And the priestess just remained silent. She didn't talk. A couple days passed. They said, Father, what's the answer? He said, well, honestly, we're waiting. We have to wait for the Manat to talk. So they said, oh, we gotta show him that Manat is nothing. So in the middle of the night, they went out there and they dumped her in the garbage heap. They dumped the idol Manat in the garbage heap. He got so angry in the morning. He kind of went there, got shock of his life. It's not there. It's in the garbage heap. Took her out, cleaned the idol, poured perfume on the idol, and put it back in its place. All right. Next day, the boys did the same thing. Third day, he put a sword on the idol. He put a sword on the idol, and he said, protect yourself now. Next day, of course, next morning, they found the idol in the garbage heap, and the sword is nowhere to be seen. This is the story of Amr ibn Jamuh. And then they repeatedly kept doing this until he just sort of got used to the fact that this idol is nothing, right? And he gave up on Manat, and he took his shahad. Okay? He took his shahad and he accepted Islam. That's the story of Amr ibn Jamuh. And then when he was extremely old, he went out for the battle of Uhud. At the time, he's very old. And he made dua that morning, oh Allah, I want to be a shaheed. I want to be a martyr. And the idea of going to paradise is literally, it's right in front of you. Imagine, just imagine for a second, you're in a situation where you can literally just go to Jannah right now. So he goes to the battle of Uhud, and his son is with him. Right? And his son says, Father, I'm going to stay with you the whole time. He said, then maybe we both be martyred to go to Jannah together. And they went, and he was limping in the battle. And he said, oh, Master, I'm going to go to the front lines. And he went to the front line, which means the chance of you getting killed is extremely high. And he fought and fought and fought until they got killed. So he died a martyr. Okay. وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُ بِهِمْ. This is, okay, an optimistic verse. Okay. وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُ بِهِمْ. This is all the Muslims who do not see the Prophet and are not from the Sahaba. Right? The generations after them. Okay. He says here, and the meaning of it is, آخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُ بِهِمْ. They said they are the non-Arabs. Others said they are those who come after. Okay. أخبرنا أبو جعفر محمد بن عبد الله بن المعلم الطوسي. Okay. حدثنا أبو الحسن محمد بن يعقوب أخبرنا أبو النضر محمد بن محمد بن يوسف حدثنا الحسن ابن سفيان وعلي بن طيفور وأبو العباس الثقفي قالوا حدثنا قتيبة حدثنا عبد العزيز عن ثور عن أبي الغيث عن أبي هريرة قال كنا جلوسا عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذ نزلت عليه سورة الجمعة. We were with the Prophet, peace be upon him, when Surat al-Jum'ah was revealed upon us. فلما قرأ وآخرين منهم لما يلحق بهم, when he recited this phrase, and others who have not reached them. Okay, a man said, "من هؤلاء يا رسول الله?" Who are these, O Messenger of Allah? فلم يراجعه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet said nothing. So the man asked him again. The Prophet said nothing. The man asked him again, who are those who haven't reached them? Those others who haven't reached them. Third time. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَفِينَا سَلْمَانَ الْفَارِسِي. And the man said, we have Salman al-Farisi. In other words, he's a foreigner. Okay. قال فوضع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يده على سلمان. Okay, he put his hand on Salman al-Farisi and said, لو كان الإيمان عند الثريا لناله رجال من هؤلاء. If Iman was up in the North Star, one of these people would have gotten it. What does that mean? Would have obtained it and reached it. It means when there are doubts and questions about Islam that could ruin our Iman, that could set us astray, the Persians will come to the rescue. And they point to Abu Hamid al-Ghazali as being one of the best examples of this. The Prophet didn't specify one person, but he said men from this. Okay, the Persians. You want to know when the fate of the Islamic Ummah started to flatline and then go down in Islamic history? When the Persians were lost to the Shia. That's how valuable the Persians were in Islamic history. The Persians were so important. And amongst them, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, the most important of all in terms of theology, and I don't think anyone can doubt his contribution to the defense of Iman, meaning the defense of Aqidah. Okay. So the first meaning here is that وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُ بِهِمْ, that it's the non-Arabs who have not yet joined the ranks of Muslims. Another narration, لو كان الدين عند الثريا لذهب إليه رجل أو قال رجال من أبناء فارس حتى يتناولوه. That's how ambitious they are, that's how competent they are, and that's how successful they are. There are people who achieve. They're achievers, the Persians. The Persians have they ever in Islamic history been a lowly, or in human history, have they ever been lowly? When were they ever lowly? Like you could say about the Egyptians, Egypt has had great monarchies, right? But it's never them. They stuck to the farms. They said, you guys do what you need to do. We'll stick with the farms, right? Julius Caesar, take it. Alexander the Great before him, right? Finally, Julius Caesar comes. We'll make you Caesar before you arrive. Do you know they did that? They made him Caesar before he even arrived. They don't put up a fight. They just farm. We got the farms. Why would we need to care about politics, about the cities? We got the farms. You need us. So the Egyptians made a deal very early on, and it's part of their history. They never fight for power. They've been ruled from, like, even the pharaoh is not Egyptian. They're originally from Libya, right? The pharaohs, they're not originally from that part of the world. Of course, they came and lived generation after generation, right? But the pharaohs were red-haired, fair skin and red-haired. How does that happen? Because they were Libyan. They were from Libya. They're traced back to the area of Libya. And who knows, Carthage, all that stuff, right? All those eras. And then they came down from there. All those people were mixed because it was a port area. They came down and they took one of the finest plots of land and they made their kingdom there. But the Persians, you never find this happen in their history. No one ever rules over Persia. That's why when the Arabs defeated them, when the Prophet ﷺ said, when we defeat Persia, they're done forever. Because this is the most backbreaking. Like, how could you? You are the Persians. All your arrogance, all your pomp, all your history. and you're going to lose to a small band of Bedouins and nomads, right? So that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, if Qisra is defeated, then there's no Qisra after him. If the Persian Khosrows is defeated, then there is none after him. The final break. But the Persians have always been an ambitious people. They've always been a successful people. Okay, even in they're dominated by the fundamentalist Shia, right? These aren't they did that better than anybody else, right? They did that better than anyone else. In terms of, look what the Ayatollah did. From France, organized the revolution, and they kept it, right? I mean, that's a feat. Forget their religion, but to organize a revolution, the British are against you, and you still did it. And then how many counter revolutions are there? As soon as there's a revolution, everyone tries to cook up and knock them out, and they're the easiest to get knocked out because they're not established. They kept it. So that's the praise of the Persians. The Prophet ﷺ had praised the Persians here. They're achievers. No matter how high the ambition is, they're going to get it. He praised the Romans for 5 qualities. Is that nobody responds to a loss after them better than them, faster. Like when they lose, they respond quickly. They don't let their rulers take care of oppress them. They don't let their kings oppress them. They take care of the weak and the insane, and they take care of animals. They care for these vulnerable categories. What else? There's 2 other things I can't recall what they like. They're brave in fighting. I can't remember what the other 2 are. But the Prophet ﷺ praised the general qualities that are found more likely than not. That's what it is. It's more likely than not they have this quality. He praised the Egyptians by saying that great soldiers will come from Egypt. Right? What did I say earlier? The Egyptians are satisfied with the farms. They don't want to rule. What did the Prophet praise them for? Great soldiers. Not generals. Not kings. Soldiers. Right? They don't like to rule. They like to relax themselves. You guys rule and we'll be behind you. Right? And that's what they did. Because when you have the cows, the amount of cows and water and vegetables that you have in Egypt, why would you bother with anything else? You got all the food you need. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ had praised many different people. Okay. He praised Ahl al-Yemen. What did he praise the Yemen, people of Yemen for? The softest hearts. And because they have the softest hearts, wisdom descends in them. They're humble. All right, wisdom descends like the rain, so it goes to the lowest. Where is the most water? It's at the lowest area, right? So if you have a mountain, where is the most water going to be? Top of the mountain or bottom of the mountain? Bottom of the mountain. If you want to be humble, if you're humble and you go to the bottom of the mountain, you'll enjoy the most water. You don't have to worry. It will just come to you. If you're at the top of the mountain, though, you got to catch it quick. So the arrogant, they don't attain wisdom. The humble attain wisdom. Prophet ﷺ praised Ahl al-Yemen for that. Different people had different praises. Okay. لما يلحق بهم. Okay. أي في الفضل والسابقة لأن التابعين لا يدركون شأن الصحابة. Okay. لما يلحق بهم. But they are not amongst them and they will never reach their status. Nobody will reach the status of the Sahaba. This here is a praise. وآخرين منهم. Okay, another meaning of it. لما يلحق بهم. They have not yet reached them, and they will never reach their status. So they have not yet reached them. They're not part of them yet. They're not part of the ummah yet. That's one meaning. The second meaning is they will never attain their status, and they will never attain the status of the Sahaba. That's a fact. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء. Right? Oh, well, why can't I ever attain a status just because I didn't live at a certain time? Yes, because Allah chose that. Right? Allah chose them over us. All right? And the way He chose them is to make them the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Yeah, that's how it is. That's a simple fact. And some people once said, well, that's not fair. Well, hold on a second. Do you know how many species you're superior to as a human? How many species are there that you're superior to? All species are for us to use. Use, not abuse, right? Abuse is haram, use is halal. All species. So why don't you say, oh, I feel bad for the lamb. I feel bad for the goats. I feel bad for the dogs. then where is this going? You could have been a jinn. Chances of guidance of a jinn is much lower than the guidance of a human, right? You could have been a jinn. So at what point are you going to stop questioning Allah? Okay. One person even questioned me, why was Hawa created second, not equal? I said, you don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la yus'alu amma yaf'al. He's not asked about what he does. Have you seen what the universe looks like out there? Have you seen how vast it is? Have you seen how amazing it is? Why would you talk when this creator creates? You zip it. Have you seen how amazing this creation is? How vast it is? How powerful it is? When this creator takes an action, you know this is the wisest course of action. And this leads us to the question in theology, could things have been better? Right? And Al-Ghazali said that the universe as it is could not have been better, not because Allah does not have the power to do so, because he has not willed so. It's impossible that there be a better universe than this. Not impossible in relation to Allah's qudra, but in relation to his irada. Not that he could not, by his will, he could do what he wishes of the mumkinat, of the rationally possible things, right? Meaning non-contradictory things. The qudra of Allah is attached to non-contradictory things, rationally possible. But there is no better universe than this. There's no better situation than this because Allah didn't will it. Okay? From the standpoint of Allah's will, there can't be any change. There can't be anything better. Right? So you say, oh, well, rationally speaking, yes, I could have had this nose at that nose. Yeah, that's all rationally, but Allah has not willed it. So that's why it's impossible. And this is the best that it is. What's your situation right now is the best. And don't forget, you're in the dunya. So there is going to come a day, and it's going to be a moment, where you realized absolutely none of the details of the dunya mattered. The superficial details, not the details of actions, those matter. You're going to come to realize there's a day that comes. All of us will recognize two things. None of the material details of this dunya mattered at all, not even one speck. And all of the details of our actions mattered. Every decision mattered. If there was an ant that you could have saved but you killed it, that mattered. If you do an atom's weight of good or shar, khair or shar, you will see it. You will see it's going to matter. So much so that there was one of the salihin, a murid, very upright murid. He died. His companion saw him in a dream. He said, well, what did Allah do with you? He said, he brought me forth between Jannah and Nar. Not in Jannah, not in Nar. He said, you, after all your efforts, not in Jannah, not in Nar? He said, I was between both. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, there is one deed that I ask you why you did it. He said, what is it? He said, you were walking and there was a wheat stalk in the road and you tossed it over to the farm on the right. But there was also a farm on the left. Why would you toss it to the farm on the right, not to the farm on the left? Like you didn't know whose it was. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to such people who their wara, their cautiousness in religion, the medicine for that, or to keep them upright, was to make sure they never cut corners. That's why Allah showed that dream to them. Okay, someone say, oh, well, it's so righteous. Wouldn't Allah have mercy for such people who are so righteous? Well, when you're young and righteous, you may be tempted to start cutting corners. So Allah was sending a message to his companion, don't cut corners in the deen. Everything counts. Every matter counts. Don't sweat the details is in the material things of life. Right? Because there will come a day that nobody cares. And there was one time I had felt that way. There used to be a wedding hall. Everyone used to do their weddings at this hall. It was a hotel. It was the happening place. Everyone do the wedding at the same place. It was polished. It was amazing. Well, years passed, many, many years passed, and there was a reason for me to go back to this hotel to see if we rent it out. Well, apparently it changed ownership. Who knows what happens? This place was decrepit. And you know when years pass and you go to a place of your childhood, and it feels like I went back in time. It's like I left That era of life was like a world. It has its own memories and its own time and place. I left that and I came back to it, and now it's in a complete decrepit state, as if nothing here mattered. That's a little microcosm of how things will feel like. So that is ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامُ وَالْهِدَايَةِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He gives it to whomever he wishes, and we stop there from tafsir of Surat Al-Jumu'ah. Now let me tell you something that we're going to come upon, I'm sure, later in the tafsir, namely that it's called Surat Al-Jumu'ah because Jumu'ah was always a habit of the Arabs, to give a speech and to gather on Friday in the middle of the day. That was probably, maybe, who knows, part of the Sharia of Sayyidina Ibrahim that trickled down and remained amongst them. And so in the beginning of Islam, Jumu'ah was not fard. It was a Majdoob. It was just like a custom that the Prophet continued, but it was not fard. So the Sahaba heard the beating of drums one day while the Prophet was giving the khutbah in his mosque in Medina. And they all looked and they started to talk, because you could talk back then in Jumu'ah. It's just a regular talk. It was not, there was no concept of Salat al-Jumu'ah as an obligation at that time. And they said, it is so-and-so has returned from a journey and has a lot of new goods, food, raisins, different foods, different items that they purchased from Syria. So they ran out and they said, quickly, let's buy everything up before we lose out on it. Okay? Except 12 Sahaba. 12 Sahabas had stayed. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you had left, and all of you had left for the caravan, the whole ummah had left from the caravan, from your Prophet, the city would have been burnt alive. Allah would have burnt it down. Right? That science shows that, like, you all turn your back on the Prophet that quickly. But that these 12, you saved the ummah. So that's why Imam Malik holds in his fiqh, his usul in salah, is that the only way we take salah, there's no aql in it. There's no rational component to the ritual law. Ritual law is how God wants it to be. That's it. Not what you think God wants it to be. So he said that the least that makes Jumu'ah valid is the least that the Prophet ever did Jumu'ah with. And so he said 12. I believe that other madhab just took it by the word Jumu'ah, which means gathering. And what is in Arabic, there's singular, dual, and plural. So they said 3. What's the Hanafi opinion on that? What's the least that you can pray Jumu'ah with in Hanafi's fiqh? Who knows? 3. Is it 3? I don't know. I don't want to, they always get upset when I speak about the Hanafi school. So we need that. All right. It's okay. It's not critical. But yes, speak.
It says 3 people besides the imam.
3 people besides the imam. See, it's like Jama'ah. So that's the idea and that's the concept. All right, let's move to segment numero dos. Segment number 2 here is to take anything that the live audience has to say first before we go to the YouTube audience. YouTube audience, and we have here the Instagram audience. All right. What do you guys have to say? You all good? Feroz, what's happening? You good? How's that medical school situation? You still doing it?
Yeah, I leave in August
Oh, man. Leave where? To where?
to the Caribbean.
Oh, subhanallah.
I actually had a quick question.
Shoot.
Do you know the name of the 12 Sahabas that stayed?
They're listed in different books. Yeah. All right. Ghulam Ghazi is asking about the salah in the territories of land where it's like abnormal hours. 6 months nighttime, 6 months daytime. So, firstly, the best people to ask is the imams there. They've been through this. they've been through this. So the best thing is to ask them. But secondly, the best thing to do is, or the common opinion is to follow the closest city where they pray at normal times. That is probably your best thing. Okay. Follow the closest city. All right. So you keep going south until somebody prays on time, like in normal 5 prayers, and then you just follow that. And others said you just follow Mecca, but it makes more sense to follow the nearest city. Okay. Are there any people from the summer intensive at the podcast now? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Islam is 8. Whereas another gentleman from here is 9. 9, alhamdulillah. In the Maliki school during janaza prayer, do we raise our hands at each takbir? No, just the beginning. Just the first takbir. What is the sunnah way of marriage nowadays? Girls' side throws a big wedding and the boys' side does a walima next day. Is it necessary for the girl's family to do this? No. The walima is a sunnah. And it should be paid for by the groom's side. But it's a sunnah. All right. There's nothing about it that is a fard. What do you think of Muslim joining the military to become a medic? When there is a forbidden thing, hypothetically, and most militaries are not engaged in wars that are Islamically valid. Any help, direct assistance in the chain, no matter what you do, sewing their uniforms, cooking their food, all of it's forbidden. Same today, just in case, again, raise your attention to this. If you are a New Jersey resident, let me read this. Okay. If you are a New Jersey resident, attention, New Jersey resident. If you're in the healthcare industry and your employer expects you to be part of gender transitioning procedures in a way that discomforts you, please DM me with your name, email, and nature of your work. We're arranging a virtual meeting with some lawyers and religious freedom consultants. Hey guys, let me ask you something. If I'm in iMessage, right, and I delete a message, does it delete for the other person?
If they have iOS 16.
If who?
If they have iOS 16 or later.
When was that released?
Last year.
They've updated their phone.
You would know too, because it says delete for like both. Like when you delete it.
What if it doesn't say that?
If it doesn't, then it's just your like message. Is it unsent or delete?
It said delivered, but I want to delete it.
So you hold it and
Is your phone updated?
button.
It's not compatible with his iPhone that he has.
It's not compatible. Oh, so I'm the bad guy now. It's not compatible with my iPhone? Why is that?
Because you have an iPhone 7, I think.
Yeah. It's an iPhone 7. iPhone 7 doesn't get iOS 16? Psh. I need it then. Well, why can't I get iOS 16?
Because Apple wants you to buy a new phone, so that's pretty much
So
unsupported.
iOS 16.5 is the latest.
Yeah.
It says download and install. How long do you think it would take to download and install?
I mean, it should only take an hour.
Okay. So after the stream, I'll try it. I'll see if it works. It includes 21 new emojis, probably 20 different genders, right? Include other enhancements, bug fixes. All right. Some features may not be available. All right. Let's give it. All right. Notifications for web apps on the home screen. Voice isolation. All right. Duplicates album and photos. Voiceover accessibility. Fixes an issue for ask to buy. Okay. Didn't mention the deleting on text, but I guess that's maybe not so important for them to mention. But I guess I'll try to update it. Okay.
But it will most likely like really, really slow down your phone.
iOS 16.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That just happens most years. If you get like a newer version of the software on an older phone, your phone will probably just crash and apps will start crashing. That's happened to me. I had like an iPhone 4.
Oh, it's not compatible with the.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like with tajallis, right? Spiritual tajallis, and your mind is still small, right? And he fries that your mind, and then you become a Majdoob. All right, here we go. What else do we have here?
What's a good routine for salah or salawat, dhikr, and Quran recitation?
A good routine for salah, dhikr, and Quran recitation. Very simply, it is wird in the morning, wird at night. A hizb or more of Quran in the day, and 1,000 salah on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Least of the salah on the Prophet is Allahumma salli wa sallim alayhi. Shams al-Ma'arif, you have to burn it if you see it. It's a book on how to use the jinn. Okay. All right, let's see what else we have in Instagram here. Rafiq, how can I clarify Maliki praying with hands down? Go to safinasociety.org/sadl, SADL, lowercase, and you'll see the adilla. But essentially, all the 4 imams have recognized qabd, but put it in different statuses. For example, the Shafi'iyya as a sunnah, the Ahnaf as a sunnah, the Hanabila as a sunnah. Oh, no, sorry, not even a sunnah, a fadila. They all put it, there's fard, fara'id, there's sunan, and there's fada'il. Okay, and there's rukhas. There's 4, these are like 4 levels. None of them put it as an obligation. None of them put it as a sunnah. They put it as a fadila, a light sunnah. Okay. Malik put it as a rukhsa in the nafila only. Right? It's a rukhsa in the nawafil. That's it. So they all have it. It's not like we don't have it. We have it. But Malik put it somewhere else. Why? Because that's what he saw the Sahaba doing, praying with their arms down. And in that document, on that website, safinasociety.org/sadl, you will see that the narrations that the Sahaba and the Tabi'een used to remove people's hands if they were clasped. Right? Break it up. Unclasp yourself. Where did they get that from? And what is the strongest sunnah in the sight of Malik? A hadith that's mutawatir, or amal of the fuqaha of Medina and the people of Medina, that's mutawatir. People of Medina, if it's something that is daily, something everyone's doing it every day, there's no way that it could have been corrupted in one generation. And by the way, that because the old days is not like today. Today you can have corruption in one generation. You can corrupt a whole population because transmission of stuff, information through technology is so quick, right? Something becomes legendary within 2 weeks, or what's the word they use?
Widespread.
Not even, no,
Trendy.
no, bigger than that. Like, for example, Muhammad Ali, right? Or the picture of guys in, I think, Korean War putting up the U.S. flag. Remember that picture? Iconic, that's the word, right? Things become iconic in 2 weeks. It took 220, 30, 40, 50 years for an image to become iconic. Now, why is that? Because if something has been seen by enough people and loved by enough people, it becomes an iconic image, right? So that took, in the past, 40, 50 years for an image to become iconic. Today, things spread so far and wide, something that has it stays in the hearts of people for 5, 6, 7 years, it's iconic, right? So today, it's fathomable that people are corrupted in 60 years. We've seen it in front of our own 2 eyes, but not in the old days. People didn't have that kind of power to corrupt a generation in such a short period of time. What are your thoughts on Ibn Sina's philosophy? My thoughts are what Imam al-Ghazali says, not what the later Ash'aris say. Later Ash'aris, they like rehabbed him, right? And they made tawbah at his death and all that stuff. But I say what Ghazali said. Zindiq. That's my... Okay. That's what I see from his philosophy. I don't see the rehab part of things. So...
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So, coming up.
Yeah.
I did hear a question about like doing Qurbani for somebody who's passed on. Like
Yeah, you can do that.
you can do that to them.
You can do a Qurbani for someone who passed on.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
And tend the reward for them. Yes, go ahead.
So a lot of us are traveling, and I was wondering if it would be permissible for us to combine our salah, and we follow the Hanafi madhab. So, is there any room for combining the salah, like Asr and Dhuhr?
Yes, you can combine it at the end for the Hanafi school. I can't speak for the Hanafi school, but what I did here is the Dhuhr at the end of Dhuhr and Asr at the beginning of Asr.
Okay.
That's their version of combination, if my memory serves correct. Trimming the nails and hair in Eid, does it apply? What if a woman is on Haid? I never read that the shath is applicable only to the men. Talib al-shath is applicable only to men. I didn't hear that. In Hajj, the ihram of a woman also disallows her when she's in the state of ihram. She's also disallowed from cutting her hair and her nails. And the talab al-shath for the non-hujjaj, us, we're not in Hajj, is a type of mimicking ihram, but not by dressing in a certain way, but by making it a light sunnah to not clip your nails or shave or cut your hair. So it does apply to the women too. Does the Quran describe the color of Allah as black? A'udhu billah. A'udhu billah. Color only has, and the man, to be fair to him, he says, I have this doubt. No. There's nothing like that at all. And by the way, color is a'arid. It's something that only exists upon something else that exists. All right. So when we classify things, okay, we have a cosmology or an understanding of how to classify things. So first of all, for something to be a thing, it has to have a physical reality to it. Physical reality does not mean we have to see it. So there are waves traveling across now, right, and we don't see them. Okay. So if I turn a radio on, for example, turn the Wi-Fi on and use it, there is a wave back and forth. That wave has a very subtle reality, a physical reality to it, even if it's extremely subtle. I can't see it does not mean it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean it has a form. So when Allah creates something, the idea of it being created is it takes a form. The ruh is not an idea, it's a form. We can't see it. It's extremely subtle. Malaika flying around. Jinn, they're forms made of different things. We can't see them, but they are forms. All right. So, a'arid is something that can only exist upon another thing that exists. Like what? Speed. Speed can only exist if something is moving. Speed cannot exist by itself, right? Redness, color is like that. It's a'arid. It cannot exist except upon a jism. A something is a shay' when it takes a jism, the form of a jism. And we say there is a dharra, and there is a jawhar and a jism. Okay? The jawhar is the smallest particle that could possibly exist. And a jism is two or more of them. All right? So that's how we define things. And so we cannot attribute anything that is restricted to the physical world to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is not consisted of a jawhar or a jism. And that is what makes Him mukhalif lil hawadith. He's different from created things. He is transcendent beyond being composed of anything, of any matter. So anything that is a subset of matter. So color is a subset of matter. It only exists upon matter. Speed only exists upon matter. Direction only exists upon matter. Location only exists upon matter. Movement is only a function of matter. So once we negate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not composed of matter, we are also negating color, speed, shape, form, direction, location, movement. Negate all of these things. Okay. The Arsh of Allah, MXBD, the throne of Allah is carried by 8 malaika, 8 angels. That is the reference of 8 in the Quran. Had nothing to do with 8 eyes. There's nothing to do with Allah being possessed of 8 eyes. Okay. What the number 8 in the Quran that you may have heard is 8 angels carrying the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the throne is a creation. So the biggest creation of Allah. And is not a throne that is sat upon. Because again, sitting would be a function of physicality. Okay. And physicality is negated for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Saiku 95, Jazakallah khairan for your dua. Can you address the misconception of Iblis saying he is free from punishment because he didn't hear Allah's speech when he told him to bow to Adam? No, we don't have anything like this. This is false. Iblis did hear, and Allah subhanahu, he did answer the question, why have you not prostrated when I commanded you to? Okay. And Iblis answered. He didn't say, I didn't hear you. He answered. He said, I'm better than him. That's why I'm not prostrating to him. I'm superior to him. You created me from fire, created him from earth. And earth is a fire is a more beautiful and attention-grabbing element than is the earth. So he clearly did hear the question, or the commandment. Then Allah questioned him about it. We heard it a second time now. And he answered it. So, can I get a tax deduction for my udhiyah and qurbani? Yes, you may. Nothing wrong with that at all. You can. If you give your qurbani to a charitable donation organization, nonprofit, you can list them as a tax deduction. Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay. Will you get Majdoob if your dhikr is just salawat? No. That's why the door is open for that, because it will cool you down. It won't have a negative impact upon you. This might be a big question. What are your thoughts on Muslims in North America justifying mortgages because of inflation? There are, at least on the face of it, contracts that are valid by the Sharia and that ulama have signed off on and muftis have signed off on through guidance and through university financial and through other things. The muftis have signed off on it, and me as a Muslim can use such a contract. What are your thoughts on Mawdudi al-Hindi? Never read his books. Of course, his organization is ICNA. Now, they all go back to Mawdudi, but I haven't read his books, to be honest with you. If Shaytan is a jinn, is he made of fire? Yes. Okay. How much do I have to study to the point it becomes tardy on one to do ijtihad? Can you it becomes fard on one to do ijtihad? You will never reach the level of mujtahid mutlaq. You may reach the level of mujtahid in nazila, which means mujtahid within the confines of a school of thought only for new matters that develop. That you can attain that level of being mujtahid fi nazila, and you do that by studying with the currently existing mujtahid muftis in any madhab until they give you the stamp that you are also a mujtahid like them. In the same way, how do I be a doctor? Feroz is going to be a doctor. You go and you sit at the feet of a whole bunch of doctors, which they call medical school, until they give you exams and they stamp you. It's the same thing. It's the ijaza instead of from one physician, from like 50, right? And every time you pass a course, that's like an ijaza from that professor that you know what you're talking about in this subject, right? So when it's time to study, for example, viruses, it's time to study diseases, pathology, time to study endocrinology, whatever it is that you're studying, okay, and you pass the course, that's the ijazah in that course. You get a bunch of ijazahs, you sit for your mufti exam, which is the boards, right? You pass that, and khalas.
Are there any Mujtahids in America that you know of aside?
Sheikh Rami would be for the Malikis. Sheikh Rami.
In America?
Yeah. In the Sur. Sheikh Yasir Fahmi maybe is also can issue fatwa on new matters. Allahu Alam. I didn't talk to him about it. And but Sheikh Rami is the oldest and the most knowledgeable from amongst the Maliki's fiqh, Maliki madhab here. That doesn't mean I know everybody, but from what I know, I'm saying there could be someone who we don't know. But from the other madhabs, Allah knows best. I'm sure there's many. The black turban is better. I lost it. It's unreal. How do you lose a turban, right? The piece of cloth itself, I lost it. Okay. Is it permissible to shave my beard or to shave your beard because it's causing arrogance? No, you fight the arrogance. But it doesn't have to, if it's a long beard, excessively long beard, that you can trim. Yes, because that's not permitted. Or that, I should say, I shouldn't say that's not permitted. I should say in the Maliki madhab, Malik discouraged that. Anything beyond a fist length, he discouraged it because it would indicate like showing off an arrogance. All you need is a fist length. Some people, if they do have a massive beard, it becomes their brand. I'm that, right? And it says piety all over it. And that could affect you. Yes, I understand that. What is a wird, says Ismail? A wird is something you do every morning or every night. It's something you do always. Okay. Is it wajib in Maliki madhab to reply as salam? Yes. What if a brother's sliding in sister's DM? Yes, well, first of all, the commandment of the Prophet ﷺ to answer the salam is physically. If someone writes me a letter, I'm not in any obligation to reply back. If someone writes me a text, I'm under no obligation to reply back. Email, not under any obligation to reply back. If someone knocks on my door and says, Assalamu alaikum, let me in, I want to visit you, I'm under no obligation to reply back. If someone calls me on the phone, I'm under no obligation to pick up the phone. So the salam of the Prophet ﷺ is sunnah to give the salam when you see someone, and then it's fard to answer back. As for a man who was salaming a woman and he's just trying to get a talk going, she's not obligated to reply to that salam. Or she just replies to herself so that she can remove the obligation. She just says wa alaikum salam to herself, like that she can hear herself. Okay. But that's a thing, sliding in the DMs. Interesting. The Finlandi says, what? What's this inside joke about?
I was just letting
Are you a slider?
I was just letting Saad know in case he didn't hear you, just to pay attention about that specific question.
Are they slide into your DMs? Maybe that's what's
He
happening.
learns it from anime, so.
He's a big anime guy.
Anime?
Talked about that.
Obsessed.
You're obsessed with
The amount, no, people are obsessed with it. Amount of times we've heard about anime lately.
Fantastic.
Well, which anime do you watch? Not that I would know.
The right question said, which one haven't you watched?
Are you serious? Wow. Wow.
He had a
Can I
Who?
just add on to
Go ahead.
Salam question? So nowadays, if a non-Muslim says salam like properly to you, do you reply back to that? I know the whole story of like saying it improperly. You can say wa alaikum or wa alaikum.
Yeah, many people say that. Many of the fuqaha said that. We don't reply the salam. Salam is specifically for the Muslims. Many people have said that, yes. If not, that's the dominant opinion for sure. According to what I know. I've never heard otherwise. Except from some Egyptians who said, yes, they give wa alaikum salam to Jews and Christians and everybody else. You heard that too? And say Merry Christmas and all. That's a bit excessive. If you compare that fatwa to take it to any other part of the world, it's rejected, right? So it's like something that's solely specific, that time and place. They may have a type of bias, or it's well known in Egypt. The Egyptians and the Christians, the Muslims and the Christians, they seem to have their a very fluid relationship with one another. I guess that's good in the sense of the political side. But there are Coptics. I see that from the Muslim side. But the Coptics are still always whining that they're victims. And so I'm not a fan of whiny populations. Yes.
How do you describe Hajj as a ritual to non-Muslims?
It is a ritual it is a way in which we obey God. It's a ritual that the entire nation of Islam partakes in at the same time, right? In obedience to God, fulfilling and imitating certain things that Abraham and Sarah did and things that God commanded. That's how, that's all I would, right? And if we do this, then God guarantees us He'll forgive our sins and answer our prayers. That's probably how I would do it. Yeah. Muslims in a university in Pakistan, PK, I guess is Pakistan, were celebrating Holi. It was actually more like a desecration than a celebration. They say they're doing it for inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is it unequivocally haram? Explain to me the origin of this holiday and what it's all about.
It's a Hindu holiday where they throw coloring at each other.
Yeah, but does it involve like the birth of their god or the cow or what?
I think it might probably have something to do with that.
Someone look it up. What does it imply? I mean, I wouldn't do it at all anyway, regardless. But just curious, what is it? The birth of the cow or what?
Hindu festival that has been so to welcome in spring, and is seen as a new beginning where people can release all their inhibition and start fresh.
Is associated
It
with the
signifies the
legend.
triumph of good over evil as it commemorates the victory of Vishnu and Narasimha Narayana over Hiranyakashipu.
No, definitely not then.
Gods.
Yeah.
Definitely not, especially with all those syllables.
I know many Hindus use it as like an excuse to like grope the gender. The men, a lot of Hindu men, they use it to grope other women.
Oh wow! So it's chaos. It's chaos.
There's actually a photography documentary on Netflix.
Mhm.
They showed like Holi in India, and they're just like beating each other. Like they literally get wet shirts. They'll like women beating men, like literally just beating them. Like
Why?
with wet shirts. I don't know, like throwing color everywhere and just beating people. Like it looked pretty insane actually.
I don't think a Muslim should partake in that, especially because he said it has to do with Vishnu and.
Last year during Ramadan, we had a big Holy Fest on campus, and at the Raw, we saw all the people with the Holy Fest stuff on their hands.
Not acceptable at all.
An MSA president, that's unacceptable for him to not, release a statement.
Yeah. No, we have nothing to do with that stuff. Professor Muhammad Fadil says that the marriage with Ayesha was not consummated right away. And dakhala biha can simply mean enter in the home. Is it a legit position? No, it was not. He's correct that it was not consummated right away. It was consummated years later, 3 years later, according to the words of Ayesha. Why do we have to talk about Ayesha's marriage when she is the only source of knowledge about this? She said it. She's the only source. And she's happy with it. So what is your obsession with the age of Ayesha? You're obsessed with the age of Ayesha for us. We're obsessed of the gender of your marriages, right? So these things, there is no rational, it's what God says is allowed. That's it. There's no rational pinnings on most moral questions. It's just what the Creator said. What is the age? Right? And Allah Ta'ala gave us, through the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's a sensible answer. When she physically can handle intercourse. That's the limit. She can marry at any time. A 2-year-old can marry on paper. But intercourse cannot occur until her body can handle it. Now, let's zoom out here and extend the history of Sayyidah Aisha. And then ask the question, why would we be tested with this young marriage to the Prophet ﷺ? And now people are asking us questions. Well, American sensibilities over the last 100 years is not that big of a deal. All throughout history, in all the times and places, nobody had an issue with this. They had issue with other things, but no one had an issue with this. So for us to be tested, that we happen to live in a culture where they're really shocked by this, not a big deal. The amount of people that are shocked by this are very small relative to the whole rest of the world and all of 1400 years of Islamic history. It's a small amount of people, right? You like it, you don't like it, does it matter? That's how it is. She's happy about it. Well, look who she became, right? So I think Allah had wisdom behind this marriage, right? Clearly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at the result. You questioning the origin, you're questioning, should a young girl marry this prophet like this? All right, let's see the result. And she is the leader of all women in her time, right? When Sayyidah Khadija was alive, she was the leader of all the women. When Sayyidah Fatima was alive, there was no one that was considered higher than the rank of Fatima Zahra. And you could even say Fatima from the household of from the family of the Prophet, and Ayesha from outside the family of the Prophet. Because while Fatima was alive, and the Prophet was asked, who do you love most? He said Ayesha. Who was after that? Abu Bakr, her father, he said. Right? Even Abu Bakr, he referred to him through Ayesha. Okay? And let's look at the results of it. Someone who is prolific in knowledge, prolific in teaching, was followed even when she disagreed with the movement of the capital. She went out to meet with Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. She did not go to wage war against Ali ibn Abi Talib. She went to meet him, to cut him off, to have a discussion, and to have Talha and Zubayr speak to Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib and change his mind, make him come back, charge the killers of Uthman, the assassins of Uthman, prosecute them, and stay in Medina. Sayyidina Ali said, this is such a terrible experience that happened. We need a fresh start. This rebellion against Sayyidina Uthman and ending in his assassination, a complete fresh start. The killers of Uthman are such a massive swath of the Ummah. Of course, there were only a few people who did it, but they're represented by massive tribes. Prosecuting them at this tender moment will light the Ummah on fire. We'll delay the prosecution. Let's cool everything down by moving to Kufa first. Kufa is a city established. Umar ibn Khattab came up with the idea, and he commanded Salman al-Farisi and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas to find an area that was empty, that was most similar to the Arab habitat, and establish a city there. They established it. They called it Kufa. Military garrison. Then it became a full-fledged city. So she was clearly involved in everything. At every turn, she's involved. She's a mufti. She answers questions in Aqidah. All of the fiqh that women needed, they would go to her. So it looks like it turned out to be the right decision, right? And Allah doesn't make decisions. It's not a decision. Okay? In the sense of a decision like, well, maybe this way, maybe that way. That's for us because we don't know. Allah knows. It's for us because we have to make decisions. Allah does not have to make a decision, right? It's haqq and full stop. Should we take a moment, says Khadija Asif, to sit after last sajda of the first, third rak'ah before standing up and continuing prayer? Not in the Maliki madhab. We do not do what's called jalsat al-istiraha, the sitting to take a break. We don't do it in the Maliki school. It's there in the Shafi'i school. If you need to take a break, you sit after the sajda, then you get up. Maybe it's easier on the knees or something like that. And it is masnoon from the Prophet ﷺ, but it's not something that is a fadila in the Maliki school. Nor would it invalidate your salah, of course, nor is it something that I'm probably not even discouraged to do, unless you're doing it imagining that it's rewardable. Okay? Working at a consulting company advising financial institutions. You may do that as long as what you're advising is halal. It's Rambutan says that holy is based on the defeat of a demon who attempted to assassinate another god on the command of his father. So these people are just like the Greeks with their dramas. Before there was ever Bollywood, I think that's what it is. There always been dramatic people. So first they made their religion that way. Then when those stories ran out, nobody wanted to watch that anymore. No one's reading Sanskrit anymore. Bollywood movies, drama, and that's it. SubhanAllah. All right, Jay Perez, can you get to my question, please? All right, let's go back to look for Jay Perez's question. How to deal with family or spouses who are hardcore Salafis, have never branched out of their du'ats and scholars. Still in the 90s mindset, there are no scholars in the West. Okay. There was a popular phrase and tape that was passed, popularized by them. All right. There don't need to be scholars in the West. We now have scholars in the East who are on YouTube that we can call on WhatsApp, that we can study from, who have subtitles. And I deem that they are more worthy of following than your set of scholars. That's it. I'm a common Muslim. You're a common Muslim. Since there are no scholars in the West, right? Then don't tell me what to do. That logic is self-defeating. There's no scholars in the West. Then don't talk about deen, right? No scholars in the West. Who do you believe is most worthy of following in Islam? I'm not making any decisions. I'm a follower. I'm putting up the white flag of ignorance. Okay? Who are you most worthy of following? Bin Baz, Bin Uthaymeen. Who's alive today? Fawzan. All right. Rabi'a al-Madkhali. Abu Rabi'a or Rabi'a? Rabi'a al-Madkhali. Okay. That's your decision. I respect your decision, but I disagree. I'm going to follow Al-Bulti. I'm going to follow whoever else I want to follow. From ulama al-Sham, from Yemen. In Mecca, in Saudi, there's amazing Maliki scholars, Shafi'i scholars, Hanafi scholars, Hanbali scholars. Amazing scholars, right? In Hadith, okay, there are amazing Syrian scholars. There are Indian scholars, Pakistani scholars. UK. Sheikh Asrar. So you follow who you believe is most worthy of following in Islam. I'm not going to argue nusus with you. So that's my advice to Jay Perez. Oh, don't do this. Why? I'm not arguing with you. It's not my decision. How we pray, how we fast, what we believe. No, all I'm responsible for, I believe La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. After that, I'm a muqallid. I find out who is the scholars most worthy of following. I follow them. I may learn their evidences, but I'm not a mujtahid to debate evidences. I don't debate evidences. I can present to you what they said is the evidence. Right? So don't argue with me. If you don't like it, you go argue with them. Okay? To be a muqallid, okay, is not to mean that I don't know the evidences. It means I would not have been able to derive it by myself. So I am imitating them in understanding their evidences. So we should all aim to be fuqaha. The faqih is between the mujtahid and the common man. And the faqih is somebody who admits he's not a mujtahid. I can't come up with the evidences myself. I can't dive into the book and the sunnah myself and derive the evidences. But I can study the result of a mujtahid imam or more. I could study his conclusions and I could study his evidences. And the more conclusions and evidences that you study, the bigger faqih you are. How simple is that? So I never argue about aqidah and fiqh anymore. I just tell you what the ulama said. This is who I'm following. Imam al-Nawawi, this is what he said about tanzih, of Allah's attributes. Okay. Oh, but the evidence says this. What evidence? Why are you talking evidences? I'm not talking evidences. All right? I'm not talking evidences. This is what Al-Bayhaqi said. This way before him, Nawawi. This is what Ibn Hajar said after Nawawi. All right, so from the 3rd Islamic century, from the 7th Islamic century, from the, I think, 9th Islamic century, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, then the 10th Islamic century is Suyuti. They're all saying the same thing about the divine attributes. Oh, I'm going with that. That's very trustworthy to me, right? And who's going to differ with Bayhaqi? Nawawi? Okay. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? Imam al-Suyuti? Put them in a room, right? And you're going now to be judged by Allah. And you're the 5th one. I feel very confident in that judgment. I feel very relaxed. Someone says, listen, you're going to be part of a group and you're going to go to Jannah or Nar based with them. And you're going to be accurate, right or wrong in the deen, determined based upon them, that group. And you give me. I end up in a room with Imam al-Nawawi. I don't care who else is in the room at that point. Ibn Hajar, I wouldn't care who else is in the room at that point. Forget Sunusi because he's only for us, right? But not forget Sunusi in a bad way. But I mean like in this ummah wide, you all need his books. No Sunni goes without the books of, or even attributing to Ahl Sunnah goes without the books of An-Nawawi. Even if you're not a Shafi'i. Or Ibn Hajar, right? And why do I always say them? Because they came late. They came when all the issues were done. Okay? Not all the issues, but most of the issues. In the realm of Aqidah. Have been brought up by the Zanadiqa and the different firaq, right? And things settled. The answers to those questions settled. Those questions didn't come up earlier in the first early generations. They came up later. So we need to follow the scholars who answered them. That's the manhaj. How could you follow Al-Bulti when he was a supporter of Bashar al-Assad? To be quite honest with you, I did not go into those things. I did not read those things. I did not watch those videos. I didn't truly follow the details of the Syrian regime, especially when people... All I could say, the summary that I did agree with Sheikh al-Bulti was that it is permissible for someone, a faqih, to be against revolution. Right? That is permissible for a Muslim to have that position. Okay? So that was his position. No, let's look back. Was he right? What was the result of the revolution? Was very, very painful, right? And you didn't get the result you wanted. So maybe he did have a point. With respect to all those who suffered, and with respect to the likes of Sheikh Muhammad al-Yaqubi, who went against Bashar al-Assad, and he also is a mufti. Is someone going to say Sheikh Muhammad al-Yaqubi is not at the highest level of Hanafi fiqh? Okay. And he has asanid of gold in everything. Everything. There's not a single science, except I hear Sheikh al-Yaqubi when he speaks about it, his asanid. This is one of the greatest scholars that we have, who speaks perfect English too. Perfect meaning he's very competent in the English language. He's not a foreigner who's trying to learn English. We're lucky to have scholars like this. But all I could tell you what they said, right? And if someone said something that was directly in support of Bashar al-Assad, I can't really comment because I didn't see those directly. Yes, I know a lot of people say it, and they regret that those statements were made. I did hear that. So I can't really, but that doesn't mean, now let me take you to what is in the Sharia. It doesn't mean we can't still benefit from what he said in the Sharia, right? If he made a judgment call on a political matter, which I'm sure he has his basis for in Sharia, that doesn't mean that all of his works of Sharia are to be dismissed. They're not to be. And on top of that, he died in the masjid, I believe it's Masjid al-Amawi too, giving a dars. Does that not indicate some husn al-khatimah? Indicates husn al-khatimah. So, will you do the class Introduction to the Maliki Madhab again? Probably yes. Probably yes. Is anyone who goes around saying follows Ibn Arabi best avoided? I'm not going to give you a judgment on Ibn Arabi. I'm merely going to tell you what the ulama said about it that I follow. The Habaib. We have a good opinion of him. Very good opinion of him. And the Syrians say, many Syrians, I can't say all the Syrians, many Syrians say, we have very good opinion of him, but his works are not to be read. The Habaib said this. We don't read his works for two reasons. Number one, there is accusations or doubts that they've been tampered with. Number two, they have expressions in them that may confuse a person. This is what they said. And that's what I follow. And that's what I pass on to everybody else. Is it my judgment? No, because I never read the books of Ibn Arabi to be able to make a decision on Ibn Arabi. But that's what the ulama that I am a follower of, and that's what they said. Okay. Do you think it's permissible for a sheikh to tell you to shave your beard because it's arrogance? No. Shave your beard? No. You can have it fist length. You can have it even shorter than that. Okay. But does that mean that you can shave it to avoid arrogance? I believe not. No. Anyway, if you have a small beard, where's the arrogance in that? What's Amra Bintu saying? Answer my question. What is it? Where's Amra Bintu's question? Do you see it? Oftentimes we come across difficult decisions. This is someone else's question. This is Hamza. Recommend navigating difficult decisions. If the decision has to do with a direct, explicit matter in the Sharia, then it's not a difficult decision. It's a difficult execution. That's different. But a difficult decision does not have clarity, not explicit in the Sharia. Okay? You pray istikhara and you do istishara. You do istishara, which means to go and ask people who know better than you. And you ask them what their opinion is. And you do istishara and istikhara. So you're not alone. Here's the thing. This is the beauty of it. Beauty of all this. You're not alone. In Islamic scholarship, right? You put yourself out there with an opinion. It's not my opinion. I'm not alone, right? I would not come up with my own opinion on something, right? When the amount of possibilities of being, of text that you would have to go through before making conclusion. That's why Sheikh Yasir Fahmi's Sheikh Ahmad Tahir Ayyan of Egypt, when he was asked this question, he said, there is no mujtahid on the earth today. All of us are muqallideen, meaning mujtahid mutlaq. Even mujtahid in the madhab. Mujtahid mutlaq founds his own madhab. Mujtahid in the madhab can make decisions, new decisions within the framework of the madhab. They don't exist. They haven't existed for a couple hundred years. But we don't need them to exist. All we need at any time is a mujtahid fin nawazil, in brand new matters, using the existing opinions within the madhab and making a qiyas on those. Okay? So, all right, Amra Bintu's question. What do you think of the Western term Islamists used to deter Muslims from applying Sharia? They use that term to refer to people who want to treat Islam as a political party. That's what I believe. But my problem with that is that the Sharia will not be implemented by accepting a system that is contradictory to the Sharia and say, let us work within that system to apply a whole new set of laws that are from another system. That's the contradiction there. All right, what was that question? What is saying? He's putting a lot of caps lock and stuff. A lot of capital letters from what? Okay. He was yelling. You, Doc, skipped like 2 or 3 questions of mine. Exclamation point, exclamation point. Why? Question mark, question mark. No, because I just hit the down button on the comments to go all the way down. Okay. What's extremism in the deen? How do I determine extremism in the deen? It's acts which are not, it's a degree of an action that would contradict another virtuous action. That's where the line of extremism would go. Because as Imam al-Haddad said, no virtuous action of the Sharia will contradict another virtue. But where you are now starting to contradict another action, another good deed, doing a good deed in such a way that it actually starts to impinge upon another good virtue, that becomes extremism. Also extremism, again, we're not alone. We go around and we connect with the ulama and see how they practice Islam. That gives us a balance, right? Beyond that is extremism. So, What's an example of extremism? The youth that said that he will fast and never eat. The youth that said he will never marry. So he wants to be, just to free his time up for worship. That's good. But free your time up to worship to the point that you don't marry, that's ghulu, right? That's extremism. So when your virtuous deed is leading you now to contradict another virtuous sunnah, well, all sunnah are virtuous. Can you fast these 9 days of Dhul Hijja with the intention to make up the missed days of Ramadan? You can make up missed days of Ramadan now, but one intention only, which is qada. You cannot make the intention of qada and nafl at the same time. How do I stay steadfast? Any advice? The company you keep will keep you steadfast, because there is going to be a time when you're tired, or your mind is drifting off somewhere else, or your heart is rusting and slowing down. The company you keep will keep you propped up.
Sure.
Yes.
Hamza's asking if you can read his comment.
Where is it?
Maybe you can rewrite it.
Let me ask him.
He praised Bashar al-Assad far too much. Okay. You can say that this was wrong if praising a tyrant, but it still permits us to take from his past works. Okay. Samir al-Nas. I of course met Samir al-Nas, Sheikh Samir al-Nas, but I never studied with him for a prolonged period of time. But he is one of the major scholars of hadith. And he's also always comes to America and England. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I remember one halakha or like talk we were giving about people who are used and then people who are loved.
Yes, that's true.
Rare people who are both. Let's say you know someone who is in the used category, but like you love them, they could be in your family. How do you like drop crumbs of like come towards this way too, and you might be like the big
How do you, someone in the family who is not on the path of deen, but they have other good qualities and you love them for that. If they're older than you, it's harder to talk to people when they're older than you. If they're younger, you can make dua for them in the middle of the last third of the night. That's the best thing. And that's not, we have nothing left to do, let's make dua. That is actually the first thing and the most likely to get you results, because they're older than you. You can't really talk to them in that way. And stay close to them and show them the akhlaq. And sometimes it so happens that a lot of time passes and no one sticks around them except the people upon the deen. Then they realize what the deen did to these people versus the absence of deen from those people. I know I can't drink alcohol, says a questioner, but can we cook with it? Hanafis?
Someone told me it was okay.
I believe that the Hanafis, Ali, the questioner, find your local Hanafi and ask him. So if I see a Hanafi walking out of a liquor store, I should have husn al-dhan. Maybe he's just cooking a liquor korma or something. Is it wrong to curse those who have significantly wronged you? And to ask, but I shouldn't say that, because entrance into such a place would be forbidden, probably in the Hanafi school. Entrance into a liquor store would be forbidden. Maybe there are other rulings that the Hanafi scholar can expand upon. But I know in the Maliki method we cannot do that. That food would be mutanajjis. There's something is najis in itself. When you make something else najis, that becomes mutanajjis. So an apple is pure. Dunk it in, let's say, alcohol, it becomes mutanajjis. It has become najis. Also, I want to warn people who go to restaurants and eat the fried food in those restaurants that is, let's say, seafood. If they use the same oil as the non-dhabiha mayta meat, which is najis, the oil is mutanajjis now. So don't eat the fried food in a regular restaurant that has all sorts of different foods in it. meats that are not permissible for us to eat. If you want to study, go to arcview.org. That's where you need to go, arcview.org, and sign up, because the summer semester is going to start after the 4th of July weekend. Hamza Riza says, how are your visitors? Jawahir. Jawhar. Jism. Jawhar. Dharra. Jawhar, Ibrahim, and company. Jawhar. Ibrahim, and everyone else. Yes, wasn't there someone else here?
Yeah, he had to take a call.
He has to take a work meeting.
Yeah.
So how long are you guys here for?
However long you want us to be here.
MashaAllah, that's good. So you stay here for the weekend?
Yeah, pretty much. Thursday.
Okay, so it's Tuesday today. Habib, you gotta take them out. Yeah. Huh? Wherever you want. Or Oak Tree Road. Yeah. Are there a lot of Desi community and Desi restaurants in Atlanta? Okay.
Depends.
Okay.
No income.
No. It's youth night. Yankees game.
Why?
Yeah, New York Yankees. Middle schoolers only. Middle schoolers.
On the path of Ahlus Sunnah.
Ibn Khuzaymah says, the quote of Ibn Khuzaymah, the one who doesn't affirm that Allah is above the 7 heavens, established himself above the throne, then he is a kafir. We'd have to see the Arabic that he said, but that doesn't really move the needle. Ibn Khuzaymah's works were read and established and assessed by the mutakallimin and the scholars of Aqidah, and he's not the be-all and end-all, nor is it impossible for someone to make a mistake. So it's irrelevant, because not saying that every single muhaddith or anything was always correct. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is it for today. It's now 3 o'clock. All right. Who are some of the elders of the Al-Ba'alawi? Okay. We can discuss that, inshallah. We can open up the website of where the biographies of the Ba'alawi are listed, and we could read them, inshallah, another day. Maybe with stories of the awliya, we can read some of the biographies of the Al-Ba'alawi. And then we'll do the same with the Qadiriyya. But do they have are there websites? Because some of these paths and these traditions are extremely vast, to the point that you could never gather all of the contemporary Qadiriyya. It's all over the world, right? All right, we can go to the next screen, inshallah. Shadhiliyya, massive. Tijaniyya, massive. You can't ever possibly gather all of them into a book. The Ba'alawi, also massive, but not as widespread, more central, because of just the nature that it had not been as widespread across the ummah as those other turuq. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma ij'al li nuran fi qalbi, wa nuran fi qabri, wa nuran fi sam'i, wa nuran fi basari, wa nuran fi sha'ri, wa nuran fi bashari, ونورا في لحمي ونورا في دمي ونورا في عظامي ونورا في عصبي ونورا من بين يدي ونورا من خلفي ونورا عن يميني ونورا عن شمالي ونورا من فوقي ونورا من تحتي اللهم زدني نورا وأعطني نورا واجعل لي نورا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Shaban قلب شیفا